Welcome to Branding Room Only, the podcast where your personal brand gets a front row seat. I'm Paula Edgar, and if you're here, it's because you know your brand isn't just about what you do. It's about how people experience you. In each episode, you'll hear stories, strategies, and lessons from leaders and influencers who built their brands and made their mark. And I'll share the tools you need to do the same. Let's go. Hi, everybody. It's Paula Edgar here with Branding Room Only, and I'm very excited for my conversation today with my guest, Brian Ellis. Let me tell you about him. He's the former Senior Vice President and General Counsel of Danaher Corporation, where he led the company's global legal organization and championed integrity, compliance, and inclusive leadership. He is a board member of the Entergy Corporation and on the board of counselors of the Equal Justice Works Foundation. Throughout his career, he's built a powerful personal brand grounded in service, authenticity, and purpose. You can read his full bio in the show notes, and you should. Brian, welcome to the Branding Room.
Morning, Paula.
How are you?
I'm great.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, let's jump in. So I asked everyone this first question. What does a personal brand mean to you? How would you define it?
Well, for me, it's the thing that, people, when they say your name, it resonates. And someone says, oh, I know that. That's exactly who he is, right? So personal brand is that single thing that people say, oh, that's absolutely right. That's exactly who he is.
Okay, well then tell me what 3 words or short phrases you would describe yourself with.
I'd say fiercely loyal, fiercely defensive of my people. And I'd say, fiercely faithful.
A lot of fierce in there.
Yeah, well, gotta be.
Okay, do you have a favorite quote or motto?
Maya Angelou statement about, people will forget what you say, but they will never forget how you made them feel.
Yeah.
That has stood with me through the test of time across my career. It's meant everything to me as someone who's been led and as someone who's been called to be a leader, because that is so important. And sometimes leaders lose sight of the fact that you can say all kinds of things and people can forgive you for misstatements and what have you, because it could be something in a moment, but it's that thing about how you make them feel. It's everlasting. It's been true across the span of my career.
Yeah, I was talking to someone the other day and he said, people want to feel fully heard and fairly treated. And good leaders make them feel that way, and they make them feel in their own way valuable, right? And so I love that quote because it kind of reminds me of that piece. Now, I have seen you in your fun space, so I'm interested to see what this next answer is. What is your hype song? So when they're going to get full Brian Ellis,
wow,
what song is playing in your head? Or if you're having a bad day, what song do you need to get you back up? And it could be the same song or different songs.
Well, they're different songs. So I'm a house head from Chicago.
Okay.
So, for those house heads out there, let no man put us under. You used to hold me, your body. Those get me rolling. I had a couple others, but that you'd have to see the photos from back in 80, 82 to actually see how I really got down. But if it's something I need to turn around, usually something from Stevie Wonder, that's my go-to.
Okay.
The ageless, the timeless songs, the brilliant writing, the poetic nature of his words and the healingness of his words are things that I turn to when I need that real pick-me-up.
Yeah, I hear you. Because as you were saying, you didn't say a song, but As just started playing in my head. I'm like, yeah.
Well, so my dog knows 2 things because dog sleeps in our room. When As comes on, that's the first wake-up call.
I understood.
Yeah, so he knows when As comes on, that's the one that gets me out of bed.
Right.
Right.
Yes.
So it's been there for probably 10 years. Crazy.
I love it. Okay, so tell me, where did you grow up, and how do you think that shaped you?
So I grew up in Chicago, both in the city and in the south suburbs. It shaped me materially because Chicago, as many people know, is a highly segregated city. I was a bit of an enigma, both being an athlete and a scholar, crossing barriers between those communities that were accepting of someone like myself who was a scholar and an athlete, and then having to manage and learning how to code switch very, very early on as a young person. And then Chicago's a gritty city. I meet people who are not from. I love my New Yorkers. The New Yorkers always tell me, "Oh, we know you from Chicago. You guys just don't. You guys just don't play with everybody, right? You guys
It's true.
just don't." And it's like it's very true. And it's because we're fairly authentic people, and we don't really suffer fools. So that kind of shaped my personality from the very beginning. And then, of course, being raised by two incredibly strong Black people, those were the foundation of my beginnings of beliefs and belief system. Even though I was, very much in a very difficult environment within the city of Chicago, and then, of course, in the South suburbs as well. So, very formative for me in my early years.
What sport did you play?
Well, I played baseball and basketball, but as my wife often asked me, why did you quit baseball? I said, because there were no girls out there, right? There were girls out there at the baseball park. They were always at the basketball park. so
laser focus.
Mine was on the wrong stuff very early on. But no, I played basketball.
Gotcha. And do you have any siblings?
I do. I have an older sister. She hates it when I say older sister because she is a few years older than I am, but she looks younger than I do. But she always likes to point that out whenever asked.
LOL. So tell me about from growing up in Chicago, what was your trajectory through school? And then tell me about your career.
Sure. So, it's interesting because I always thought I was going to have a career in sports. I was pretty serious athlete, highly recruited coming out of high school. And I never thought, unlike I think a lot of athletes, I never thought I was going to the NBA. Not a chance. I mean, first of all, I played with such tremendous athletes. There was a step change difference between my capability and theirs. It was very evident, right? I was the guy that got selected to go to the national camps and got to go play against some of the greatest talents. A lot of people I played with or against played in the NBA. And there was definitely a step change between them. And, number one, I want to give them more than watch cartoons or something else. They were in the gym already at 7 a.m. dunking basketballs. And I already knew there was a step change difference between those. But then, the most formative thing that happened to me, again, going back to the challenges of being in a very segregated city, was I had a coach that ruined my career. All because I was so different than any other Black person he'd ever coached. And I represented a complete change in a dynamic that he was unaccepting. And as a result of that, he tanked my college career. Wow. And so I literally went from one weekend of having 7 visits lined up for the next 2 weeks to decide where I was going to college, to having no one even sending me phone calls or returning letters or telling me anything until one day I walked into the coach's office. He hands me 2 bags of letters from colleges and saying, good luck. Now this is in March of 1984. Wow. I'd never applied to college because I was going through the sports way, right? Right. So I was forced to then have to kind of regroup, dust myself off, figure it out, and accept a program that I was head and shoulders, above playing in. But because I had no place else to go, I had to choose to go to an academic school in the Division III because that was the only place that would take an athlete who was also a scholar with sort of sight unseen. So it kind of taught me very early on, that things can happen and completely blindside. At 18 years of age, my reaction was a lot different. I was angry, disappointed. Then I had schools kind of figure out, like within a year, that it really wasn't me, that there was something else going on. And they were all kind of then come back and saying, well, if you now want to try and walk on, we take you on. And I was like, well, wait a minute. I was going to come on as a scholarship athlete. Why would I come on as a walk on? So I was stubborn. I refused it. And that was my first lesson. And, don't necessarily block a blessing, right? Because my career plan was to have a career in sports. Whether it was, and I thought of coaching, I thought about getting in and being, getting into major college programs and coaching. And by shunning that and by not going into a major Division I program, I kind of cut that off. And so now I spent the next several years trying to figure out, all right, well, what's next? Well, you are kind of smart. So what do you do now, right? And then LA Law came out, right? I didn't have a lawyer in my family. I didn't know any lawyers. I certainly didn't know any Black lawyers. But boy, LA Law was the one that opened my eyes. And I was like, well, wait a minute, hold on. They're in LA. They dress well, smart. Okay, check, check, check. Now, the dress well wasn't it, because I was the Granimals kid growing up. Mama made all my clothes. That's a whole other therapy session. But I saw that, and I saw the power of what they were doing in a courtroom, and I saw that as my first vision. Okay, well, maybe that's something I could actually do. And so literally, I come upon graduation. Well, actually, I'd gone overseas. I played ball overseas in Europe. And I came back because I met this girl who then, 34 years later happens to be my wife, or actually 9 years later actually happens to be my wife. And I said, well, I can't stay playing ball in Europe. I got to come back because I don't know what's going on in Northwestern and what these cats might or may not be doing while I'm away. I came back from across from overseas. But then I was kind of stuck. I didn't really have a plan. Oh, you have to take this thing called an LSAT. You just don't roll up in the law school. Oh, okay. So, took the LSAT. And I was like, well, there you go. So, as it turned out, I mean, playing ball in Europe was great. But, there was this girl I had to make sure that, the other guys in Northwestern weren't, trying to step in on my territory. And I literally came back and stalked her. And, 39 years later, all's good. But
it worked.
It's also instructive of my career. So that I looked at that opportunity as one to come back and kind of reground, went to law school. And, I really had no idea what I was going to do. Because again, I didn't know lawyers, hadn't, met any lawyers, none of them were in my family. So I didn't actually know what lawyers actually did. So my first year of law school, I kind of forgot that I was supposed to be in law school because all the guys that I knew playing at Illinois at the time were guys that I played against or played with. So I was scrimmaging with those guys and hanging out with them. My professors, a few of them are long gone by now, but there's a reason why I wasn't in class. I was actually playing ball. But it really kind of opened my eyes a little bit later. That I worked for a civil rights lawyer down in Champaign, and I started thinking about all the things that I'd seen on TV about lawyers, and I see this amazing guy who's the selfless, human being out here in civil rights. And I said, oh, maybe it's something I want to do. But again, I didn't know anything about the practice of law, so I got lucky coming out because I landed with a firm that was a tremendous. It was a small aviation aerospace litigation shop in Chicago that had all these partners that from major law firms that had gotten together, started a firm. And as fate would have it, I got into that shop and I started to learn the craft of litigation, and I was good at it. And so I started trying cases very young in my career. And then after a number of iterations of firm blowups and separations and fights, I got picked to go along with, some majority group every time. And finally, I kind of get into this sort of mid-year associate level, and I had a lot of activity within the firm. I was leading the summer program, and the main partner of the firm comes to me and says, you're kind of wasting your time here. I'm thinking, wait, that's a heck of a way to get fired.
Right. What?
Right. And I was like, in fact, he took me to a supper club in Chicago. If you're from Chicago, certainly a black person from Chicago, you don't even know what a supper club is. Right. So I was like, I show up, I asked my dad what a supper club was, and he said, well, the guys who'll be serving, you're going to look to see if you have a white jacket, because they never seen brothers walk into places like that. I walk in and literally the brothers looking at me like, why are you here? And I was like,
right.
So-and-so. And I sat there at the dinner, and he said, and I think to myself, well, this is a way to get fired. It's a great way to get fired. Very, very public, so I can't go off. And he just says, look, you can make partner here at the firm. No problem at all. But that's not really what's going to make the change in your career. And this is a guy who was looking after me. It said, be in my office tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. The U.S. attorney from Northern District will be sitting here waiting. I've been told him he needs to meet you. So
wow.
And I showed up the next morning, and sitting in his office was the U.S. attorney for the Northern District of Illinois.
Wow.
Having coffee with him and discussing, to discuss with me whether I should or would want to come to the U.S. attorney's office in Chicago. These are the kinds of doors that opened for me just kind of out of happenstance, but it just it happened, and I followed and I understood what was going on, and I followed the lead. And so because of that really changed the trajectory of my career. I mean, I got to meet great mentors like Judge Ann Claire Williams, sought after me, looked after me, kind of tutored me and mentored me along the way. And I met great lawyers like Andy Zopp, who were out there as well, Judge Holmes, Scott. These were just amazing sisters in Chicago that were just, trailblazers ahead of us. And I got to be a part of that crew and, learn my craft. And from the U.S. Attorney's Office, I moved into bigger firm life, partnerships at big firms, but it was always something missing. It was always that sort of same challenge of being recognized for what you do and do well and being fairly compensated for what you do. And I just got sick of the goalpost moving, right? Bringing in all this money, but yeah, you're not making a top dollar. Keeping all the associates busy, but yeah, you're not collecting enough on your hours. Changing the rules of engagement along the way as the brothers, starting to make it happen.
Right.
And so
Right.
I luckily got a call out of nowhere to go to GE. And so I literally went to GE, after that. And it was from there, I just started moving into bigger and bigger roles, ultimately to where I am today.
Yeah. Wow. So, I like to draw out some themes when folks are talking about their trajectories. And it seems like that people who are focused and are like, this is what I'm going to do, this is my path, this is going to be a straight line, don't exist.
Yeah. Okay, I can tell you it's not a straight line for me. All right. So in law school, I thought I was going to be a lawyer of the people. I joined the prisoners' rights organization. And I wanted to free my brothers who were wrongly incarcerated. Yes. That didn't happen. I became a federal prosecutor. I mean, right. But I didn't have a plan. But the thing I did have, and this is why I tell a lot of my mentees, I just stayed open to opportunity. When people told me, and this is a classic line, I see a lot of you in me. I was, these are white cats. I'm like, how could you see anything? But what they were saying to me was part of the reason why I'm successful is because I always remain open and available for opportunity. And I see you are the same. I think that's what they were saying to me then, right? And when they gave me the opportunity, I didn't sit back and go, oh, maybe I shouldn't, or maybe I don't want to. I did it and I took it. And because of that, I think that, again, part of my commercial brand was I was always that guy. Right. I was always that associate that if you walk that firm, and I know this is news for, the newbies out there. This is old school. I didn't leave the firm until I knew every partner I worked with was gone. You weren't going to catch me dead, bouncing before somebody that I had work to do for, had left. And so I was that guy. So, random partners would walk the halls and they would say, hey, I was looking for somebody to do this. Do you have time? I was that guy.
Yeah.
So because of those things, I think ultimately that linear path, first of all, I didn't know what a path was, but I never stayed linear because I didn't know where things were going to go. So I've been a deal lawyer, litigator, a prosecutor, and now, a compliance leader of a, $20 plus billion enterprise. Because I didn't stay linear. I just kind of understood what the craft was, understood how to practice, but more importantly, in all those roles, how to lead.
Yeah. And I think also a through line is that, hard work ethic and reliability, right? Like that, those things are sort of baselines of a good, strong brand. When people know that you're going to do the work and they can rely on you, it gives them the freedom to give you opportunity and to help you to think about other things. So you just mentioned leadership. How do you think that you have developed your leadership style throughout all of these different roles?
Yeah, it's been a learning. If you're an active listener, I think that's an important part of leadership, right? Because if you're just talking, you're not leading. Right. And so I think the single thing I've done as consistently across the evolution of leadership, whether it's, paralegals on a matter, agents out in the field, 400 plus people in an organization, being an active listener, because you pick up so much around you, and the more leadership responsibility that you obtain, you really have to listen to what people are saying, because it's not just what they're saying, it's what they're feeling. One of the things that I try to do, and I've tried to make consistent, is trying to meet people where they are, understand where they are. I think, my wife was in HR, and she would always impart wisdom on me about good leadership and bad leadership. And one of the single bad things that lawyers don't do, they don't listen, right? I've got the solution. Now, just let me tell you all the ways in which you could have done things differently. And what I found is when I just ask questions, and I ask things like, well, what was it about that you didn't like? Tell me what you did like. What would you want somebody to do differently? You get so much more out of people than just simply, trying to tell them, well, if you just done it this way, or right? So I go into these things as a leader, not presupposing an outcome.
Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah.
that has been sort of the single thing for me as a leader. I've unlocked people. And one of the things that has happened to me over the last several months that people know that I'm retiring from my role, people just sending me notes about the things that I said to them along the way that unlock something for them. Well, you can't unlock things for people if you run in your mouth.
Right.
You got to listen and ask people and be seriously and earnestly interested in what is it about them that you can help in some way, or someone that you don't know that I can maybe put you in touch with that can help you in a certain way. And just by doing that has changed the trajectory of my leadership, from just, a couple of paralegals on a matter to organizations of 400 or 500 people.
I think when people know that you are interested and invested in them, then they also show up differently for you, right? So it also makes the leadership easier, quote unquote, because leadership is never easy, because people then become your people versus just, sort of soldiers in the ranks there and duly invested. So I've heard so many good leaders talk about how, a paralegal or legal secretary has saved their butts, in times because they have heard them, right? They weren't just treating them as if they were, the help. They were treating them as an equal and someone who was a supportive part of the team. And I think that's such an important, I'm glad you reflected on that, because, people ask me all the time about inclusive leadership, and I'm like, just care about people, because that's what inclusion is. So
absolutely right. I start my meetings. Well, I have a standard cadence of my meetings. How are you? How are your people? Okay, what business issues do we need to cover? Right. And there's sometimes, depending upon what the first two answers are, we don't get to the business issues.
Yeah.
Because number one, I trust my folks that they have them well in hand, and they're basically just reporting news and not actually asking me for anything. Otherwise, they typically lead with, "Hey, look, I do need something from you today." So that's my standard. My standard meeting is, how are you? How are your people? And then what are the business issues? And when you do that, it makes everything so much easier, right? Because people know they can trust you.
Right.
They know you're invested in not just beyond, the quarter, the year, and the like. And so for me, that's how I think I've gotten the best out of the folks that have worked with me. I do actually genuinely care.
So I think really good leaders create other leaders, right? Because of, how they have modeled, but also how they've been, deliberately saying, I think that you have this in you to do X. Talk to me about some of your mentees and how you have imparted, your leadership and your Brianness onto them and to make them better, whatever they are.
One of them said to me the other day, "I've got so many Brianisms to take with me," and I'm like, because she just left the company and she blamed me because she said you were too good of a mentor. Again, I just try to really understand where people are. And I went a number of years without ever seeing anybody that looked like me who could help me along my way, specifically as an executive officer of a Fortune 100 company. I didn't know anybody who had that and could tell me what that life was going to be like. But I was fortunate enough to have a guy named James Dallas. He's now, he was a former CIO at Medtronic and operating officer at Medtronic, and he was at, the paper company down in Atlanta, in Georgia. Anyway, he spent so much time with me about what it's like to be in a servant leader role as an executive. And the first thing he said to me is, "Brian, you owe nothing except your time and your wisdom."
Wow.
And then when he said it to me, I didn't realize, because that's what he's giving me, right? I just thought we were chopping it up as two Black senior executives. But what he said to me was, "You owe people your time and your wisdom, because you have both. You have both of those."
Right.
And so what I really try to do, Paul, over this last decade, is always have time for my mentees. Always have time. It may not be in that very moment that you reach out, but to always have time. And always give them the space to explain what it is that they're dealing with. Obviously, I don't know I've been through a lot, haven't been through everything, right? More importantly, just give them that time and that space, and then to also give them that critical feedback. Because
So
sometimes,
important.
because as I said to, I've said to my mentees, I spent decades of getting nothing but destructive criticism. So I didn't know how to take constructive criticism.
Okay.
Right. So
talk about that.
Right. You spend decades of getting destructive criticism. That means it will steel you against being able to accept constructive criticism. And so sometimes I would have to break down with them that there's some truth into what you're hearing. It may not all be accurate. And I would say 90% of it might be inaccurate, but there's a 10% in there that maybe you need to take stock in. And so with my mentees, I try to just drop those kernels on them to say, okay, what is it about those things? What is it about the feedback? What is it about that's not consistent or there is consistent? If it is consistent, plan to do something differently.
Yeah.
So, with my mentees, and they span beyond the legal field, which is beyond me, why anybody in business would ever listen to me, but they do, right? And I think largely it's because when you have such a vast career as I've had, and I have a network of people that I have that are beyond the legal field, right? I can at least plug people in to people that might be able to help them far beyond what I'm capable of, given my limited skill set.
Yeah.
But I'm open with my mentees to say to them, okay, what do you need and how can I facilitate? Because with someone who's at this point in their career more of a facilitator than anything else, that's where you need to tap in.
And that's the power of it, right? When you can say, I built this network and I can, you can have some of this, the juice that I have accrued, I think that makes a lot.
That goes back to what I said earlier, Paula, about my roots, right? One thing about being from Chicago is I don't mess with everybody. Right. And so I can suss out very quickly whether you're a person of action or you're a person of self-action.
Yes.
Right. Yes. And so I don't deal with people who are all self-activated.
100%.
Right.
100%.
So if you tap into my network, it's people that are going to help you. It is people who are like-minded. It's people who want to see a sister get ahead, a brother get ahead, and not be someone who's going to be hating or trying to find some way to climb or try to find some angle. Can I get a billable hour? Can I, my network is about helping people.
Right.
So when someone sends somebody to me, they know they're going to get helped.
Right.
I send someone to someone else, they know they're going to get helped. And it's not even a question. Hey, you so-and-so sent you, my girl Deb Tellman, right? She'll say, Brian, I need somebody who's going to do this. Can you talk to me about that? I'm like, girl, come on, we'll talk quick, right? And because she knows that if she asks me for something, I'm going to get it to her.
You're going to get it. Yeah.
If I ask Deb for something, she's a person of action, right? Not self-action. And so these are the people in my network that when we put somebody in play, the phone's not going to not ring. It's not going to get ignored. It's not going to be ignored. An email's not going to get took forever to get returned.
Right.
And so that's what in my circle and with my mentees, they know that if you're in that circle, you have access to these kinds of folks.
And a responsibility to keep it going.
Oh, without question.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, that's the beautiful part about it. I may be retaring from Danaher, but I'm not retiring from life and I'm retiring from my roles. I'm still looking at hopefully other board opportunities and whatever else. But, I have so much fire and passion about seeing our folks thrive and develop and win.
100%. Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then I have such a broader network of people who are of like mind that, I don't know if maybe that's the time I really will retire, but I don't have that anymore. Right. That all those folks are either gone on and they're off, they're off doing something else. But, I view this as life's work beyond, beyond the boardroom. Really, I do.
I love that. I mean, I think that's a great sort of through line into my next question, which is you have spearheaded initiatives that support pro bono work and expand access to legal services. Why is it important for you to use your platform to serve others in terms of a part of your brand and who you are? Well,
first of all, I'll go back to who I was raised by. So my father, I lost him a year ago, almost to the day, lost him a year ago, but he affected so many people. And, when he retired, there were so many Black bankers at his retirement, and they would all say to me, "Why are you here?" They didn't realize it was my father, right? Because I didn't realize when my dad was leaving Chicago and going down to the HBCUs and the finance and recruiting up to Chicago banks, all these folks, that I didn't know what that was.
Wow.
I had no idea what that was, right? I just knew my dad was going down to Atlanta U, Clark, Morehouse, Spelman.
Yes.
I knew that's where he was going. I had no idea what he was doing. And then, turn the clock up to 25 years later, and there's all these Black bankers in the city of Chicago sitting at his retirement party asking me, why am I here? So I learned it from my father. I saw him in active community as being a mentor. And so, it was powerful stuff. And so very similarly for me, there's no way that I could attain a little bit of recognition, power, authority, progress, and think that I got here by myself and not be invested in the growth and development of others.
Right.
So whether it's through pro bono service, when you're in-house or even when you're a big firm lawyer, the fact of the matter is you don't have the time. So then to do it yourself.
Right.
And so I made it a mission then that I would use critical dollars, critical funding that I had the ability to impact, to deliver on the things I couldn't do personally. It didn't replace it, but at least it was a piece I could do. And so I'm passionate about that. When I came into my job at Danaher, one of my mentors just passed away, Cam Finlay, called me and he said, "Hey, now that you have this job, your predecessor, who had just literally called me the day before to tell me the same doggone thing, you will continue to support the Equal Justice Works Foundation." And it wasn't a you can
question.
It was not intended as a question. And as I got into it, and David Stern was leading it at that point in time, and I really understood the great work that the foundation did, and I realized the opportunity that we could have an impact here in Washington and abroad, it was such a perfect fit for what we wanted to do. So, we went from just sending dollars to a gala to now being getting a foundational grant from our foundation here at Danaher. And plus, we support 2 fellows. And so that to me was part of a burning legacy of making sure that the company situated here in DC supported one of the largest not-for-profits that are doing good things out there that our lawyers just simply themselves did not have the time to do. Right. So that's part of my passion. And then the other side of it is, if we aren't responsible in the roles that we have, it's shame on us. Shame on us.
Agree.
Right?
Agree 100%.
And I could not sit here in this chair, raised by the man who raised me, and not be a champion. It's not who I am. Right. It's what I am. And so I'm not apologetic for that at all. But it's part of who I am. And so, and like I said, my village is the same group of folk. So it makes it a lot easier. It's funny. I saw Juliet prior. It was funny. We laughed. We said, we only see each other at these events. but we see each other at these events because we're like-minded. Right?
Yes.
We're like, Juliet's a huge champion. Look at all the people that she's supported.
I know.
Right? Look at the weight behind this sister. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's just funny. It's like we all see each other, and it's like we never see each other except in these events. And but it's okay because it's the right stuff. It's the important things.
Yes.
Yeah.
I spoke to her yesterday. That's so funny. Yes, it's true. Yeah. There's a similar also feeling when you connect with people who are like you, who are your people. You just know that's your people immediately, almost too. I feel like that's been the case for several of you. I'm proud to have many people who are in leadership in my podcast because I want to show a vast audience about this ethos, about leadership, about how, if they don't get a chance to meet you, they'll get a chance to know and to hear what is important to you and to learn from it. So,
and I tell my mentees this about some of the young, public GCs that I've helped mentor and bring them along the way.
Yeah.
I said, your only responsibility is to give people your time.
Yes.
Right. And your wisdom.
Yes.
Because if you don't do that, then you are an empty chair in my mind, right? I wasted my time.
Yes. Right? You're passing down what you learned.
Period. Right? and you now are sitting in a seat of authority.
Yes.
Relative authority. And shame on you if you don't use it.
Yeah. I agree.
Right?
I agree 100%. I think that one of the challenges that I'm experiencing now with the world that we're living in is folks who have the opportunity to be impactful not choosing that opportunity. And again, I know there's lots of things that go into this, but the through line of what you said, this whole conversation has been about values, right? About how and when we lose our values is a big part of what your brand is, right? The podcast is about personal brand. It is a big part of it. When you lose those things, you lose some of how people connect with you, some of what people, how they perceive you, because you're not living by the values that we hope that you have, so.
Look, it's very simple.
Yeah.
People that raised me.
Yeah.
I could never look them in the eye.
Yeah.
Right? And my children know who I am, right? They know exactly who I am and what I stand for because they've seen it, right?
Yeah.
And so I hope that whatever they do in their lives, right? I have a daughter who's now, hopefully going to be passing the bar here and we'll know soon.
She will.
She's, not going to have no question about that. I impart that on her too, as does my wife, right? You have to have a purpose-driven life, not just simply, trying to run out here and run hard, play hard, but remember this purpose-driven. And I remind them, you come from people like that.
Right.
This isn't new. You come from people like that. And so, my kids, there's no daylight between who I am at home, who I am at work, who I am with my boys on the golf course. I'm the same guy.
I love it. That's perfect segue. What advice would you give to professionals, particularly those who may not feel like they've been seen or heard within their organizations, about how they build visibility and influence? But the key part to this question is, because it resonates from you, but also with authenticity.
Yeah. Well, authenticity is an interesting word. I go back, and I'm sorry to go back to this, but it's rooted in who I was raised by.
No, please go ahead.
The stories I got from my father trying to break into banking in the 1960s, giving him phony math tests. The man taught math.
Wow.
The obstacles that he faced to running a bank wasn't until his latter years when I finally gave him the ability to run a branch. Those lessons I learned from him were so instrumental in exactly this particular area. My dad would say to me, son, it's not your job to educate these folks. It's your job about who you are. That you put on a different face. If they don't accept you for who you are, keep stepping. Right? That was a very early lesson.
Wow.
My dad taught me, and this was, unfortunately I didn't listen very well, but he taught me, like, look, who you are at work doesn't have to be who you are at home. Is that a question of authenticity, or is that a question of survivorship? Because in the 60s, they didn't want him there in the first place.
Right.
So I use that as the storyline behind why it's important to be able to code switch, why it's important for us to be able to recognize place and time, and why it is that when you get to positions of authority, why you don't run from challenges. Because if you come to a job with your authentic self and you are authentic in who you are and how you present, that's fine.
Right.
But that doesn't mean they don't have to get you all the time, 100% on. Right. Because we got to get you in positions of authority, and not get eliminated along the way. Right. So, because without that, the funnel, the screens, the filters close you out.
It's so true.
Right.
Authenticity is not on and off. It is a scale.
It's a scale. I like that scale.
Yes.
It's a scale. There's not a job in the Fortune 100 that wants Southside Brian to show up. That's a different guy, right? But in the moment, given the moment, I'll give you as much as you're willing to take. I'll give you a perfect example. When we were all going through the haze of the George Floyd murders and the now public spectacle of the mistreatment of blacks across the United States, white folks got really comfortable asking me questions because my authenticity as an executive officer led them to get to a level of comfort to feel that they could ask me a question in vulnerability without getting, getting full on response.
Southside.
And so in those moments of authenticity, I had a choice to either not go down that path or to address the path. So I decided to address it.
Yeah.
And I addressed it in levels of humanity that it wasn't offensive. It wasn't, well, of course you don't understand this because this isn't how the police treat you. Of course you don't understand this. I didn't go down the of course nots, right?
Right.
I just gave them real life examples, let them know that the person they feel very comfortable with every day is under assault.
Right. Has also had experiences. Right. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Real time. Right? The conversation with my black son that I know you've never had with yours. And the looks of bewilderment. And some responses were met with, oh my. Some responses like literally tears.
Yeah.
But it was choosing at what level of authenticity that I want to have in the moment. So you don't get to steal me and remove me of my authenticity. Right. I get to choose how much of that I want to share with you. And so that's why I think authenticity is a very elastic word and should not be pejorative and saying, well, you ain't keeping it real. No, I keep it real where I need to.
Right.
And then when I know I can actually make a difference with people and affecting how they think about things versus coming full on and just saying, well, of course you don't understand.
Right.
Because that's not that's not going to benefit anyone or anybody. And certainly if not for the next person that looks like me that they would encounter. So
it's such a strong point that also reminding folks that we have agency in that space. Because I do think that everybody, whether they call it that or not, has to code switch at some point, right? When you go into some kind of something you don't know and they don't know folks like you, and that's not about race or gender or any diversity characteristic. It's just about coming into a new culture. You got to figure out how to navigate it before you can be like, okay, actually, this is I wear my big hoop earrings, although I wear my earrings anywhere. But the point is that you have to test the waters before you can swim in it, right? And so I think that's a really important piece of that.
But it's also in listening, right?
Yeah.
I listen to the question to understand, is this really a question and is it sincere?
Yeah, right.
Or are you trying to be provocateur, right? And if you're trying to be a provocateur, you don't even understand what you're walking into, right? And so that's when the other cat shows up. So, and so it really is one of those where if you're an active listener and you don't lead with the obvious things like, you never understand. Of course you don't understand. This isn't your world. There's no way you can understand kind of thing.
Right.
Then, then you'll block the actual ability to hear and the opportunity to actually be your authentic self and relate to them and say, listen, this is not the world that I live in. This is the world you live in.
And connect deeper when you do that.
Yeah.
Again, the work that I do, it's like, I know we have three questions between me and you not knowing each other to finding some place of commonality.
Absolutely right.
But we have to get into that space. And there's so much divisiveness that leaving opportunity for there to be that connection is a powerful skill, but everybody clearly does not have nor also does not want it.
Well, and that's right. And that's where you say the agency, right? You have the agency to decide how much of that you were willing to give and share because it can come with great pain, right?
Yes.
Walking you back through things and situations, right? That were harmful to you that you still are trying to manage through.
It's true.
Right?
It's true.
So I think agency is a good word. I would like the agency with your authenticity. I think that's the way I would.
I like it. I like that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's talk about this. So you're now entering a new phase of your career. What do you think about legacy and how you want your brand to carry into the things that you're going to do going forward?
To be honest with you, I didn't think about legacy and I haven't. But man, it's been smacking me in the face the last, and it's interesting because I don't remember who I was talking to about this, but we were having this very conversation about how humbling it is to get the responses I've gotten since my retirement's been announced.
Yeah.
And it's because I never went into this with an expectation of getting something out of it. I don't spend time with people waiting for a comeback.
Right.
I'm not putting anything on a ledger that you owe me.
Right.
And when that happens, and you don't realize how long the ledger is of people that you've apparently affected or you apparently have helped along the way, I guess you call that a legacy.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's not so much about what I want it to be. It's kind of how it's formed and it's developed. And I don't think I would do anything differently going forward. I think, the thing I want to happen, so it's crazy. Last week we were supposed to get together, and unfortunately I had to go to a funeral. It was the funeral of my father's best friend. Both of them were giants in the Chicago Black bankers community. And when my father passed, he fell to pieces. Couldn't believe that my dad was gone. And not even a year later, I was in last week.
Wow.
And the legacy just around, just the people that were there at the funeral, people I've known for 40 plus years, all of whom your dad and Mr. Hampton were the giants. Let me tell you what he did. Let me tell you what he meant. Let me tell you the things they did together and how they changed the lives of a lot of Black bankers across the country. And I mean, so if I could leave, at some point, this is going to be me too. If I could just have that bit of legacy where people will walk away and say, do you know what that dude meant to me? How he helped me? How he helped this situation?
Yeah.
Right? Never in any one of those conversations I've had about my father or my father's friend who passed last week did they ever talk about what he expected back. Never, never. It was always, they were so positive and so prospective. They were so positive and wanted to make sure that we were doing the right things because they had confidence we would carry it forward, and then give examples of how they were carrying that on. That to me, in my next phase, is all I'm focused on is how do I continue to help people, PCs that I mentor now and all the non-lawyers that I mentor now. How do we make sure that this is instilled and ingrained and that you are following up on their mission, their task going forward? That can leave that as a legacy, and that's good enough for me.
It resonates for me deeply because my audience knows, because I talk about this freely, that my mother was killed on September 11th. And when she was killed, there was almost like a passion that was driven in me that I was like, I have to have impact because she's not here to do it. Like, I have to have impact. And so it's a through line in every single thing that I do. Like, right? It's like I'm giving. But I recall at her memorial, people from the janitor, right, that she worked with came and said, she always saw me. She always, and so my therapist, shout out to my therapist, always says that you've already had the impact now. So I impart that to you too. Like, you've already made the legacy. Now it's how you continue to make it so that, in Hamilton, where they say, like, you always write, like, you run out of time. I feel that way all the time. Like, I got to do more things. I got to be more impactful. I got to, make sure people have better photos on LinkedIn. Like, I'm passionate about all these things. But for those of you listening and thinking about, what you just said, Brian, it's like, I already, from hearing what you just said, I'm listening. I'm like, okay, I'm seeing your father's legacy right now. Like, I'm here. And that's a powerful thing. And even how you said that your kids know who you are and how you've always been, that is a powerful thing too. And that consistency and the values and all of that is personal branding, right? Without calling it that, it's the who you are and the promise of you. And so I'm going to ask you my last few questions because I have to, because this is the part that I'm waiting for. Because I know the first time I met you, I sat down next to you at a dinner, and I was like, "Who is this guy? He is fun. I like him." I was like, "Who is he?" So I want to ask you this: what is the fun stuff? What do you do for fun?
Well, now the kids are all grown. The fun stuff is watching them, actualize. Not always fun, sometimes tough, but to watch them self-actualize, that's fun for me.
Yeah. Yes.
Especially having a daughter that's in the law, right? Because I've forgotten more law than I can ever remember, but she'll call me, "Dad, what do you think about this?" I'm like, "Wow, right, you're making me think now. This is great." Right. My wife's a lawyer too, so we'll go back and forth with questions like, "Can you believe we're talking to our daughter about this stuff?" So that's kind of fun. But fun for me at this point, really, again, my incredible village spend time with my boys and our families.
Yeah.
We were just out, beautiful Sonoma.
Yes.
And let me tell you, that town and country moment out there in Sonoma
Beautiful.
with
It's
my
beautiful.
boy and you know who that is. Oh my God. I mean, just
Wow.
that was the best, right? You can't even imagine this get together of such talented, incredible Black people having a ball, just enjoying each other. The whole weekend was set up just to enjoy each other's company, right? So we do a lot of that now. We're traveling and, we're fortunate enough to have friends who've done very well. So we get to go places where they have like nice spots, right? So we're doing a lot of that. We're doing a lot of travel. We've gotten on this concert gig. So we're in Rotterdam early this year.
Okay.
I think we're going to do a Rotterdam Montreux trip next year. And
nice.
So we're doing big music trips, which is great. And of course, I'm a passionate golfer. So I got a crew that we've been playing together probably 24, 5 years. And we have a big event once a year, and we have little minis along the way. My wife just called them, just go play golf. Stop calling. But that's where I find peace for a game that's maddening. I find peace there because we can spend 4.5 hours in silence and just enjoy each other.
Yeah.
4.5 hours rolling on the ground laughing. And then the next several hours, wherever we're doing, eating, drinking, hanging out, and talking.
Yeah.
Just being vulnerable brothers who get to know each other deeper than we already do. So that's what I do for fun. Travel. My wife and I have been doing a lot of that, which is great.
Love it.
And playing golf. That's what I do.
Okay. So last two questions. Yeah. What is the authentic aspect of your personal brand that you will never compromise on?
Being a fierce defender of my people.
Okay.
Yeah.
Love that.
Love that. Again, I was raised by a brother who that's how he got down. Even though I didn't know it at the time.
Yeah. I
see the byproduct 25, 30, 40 years later. I'm unapologetic about that. There have been situations where I've been in a position to not help someone. I've never done that. And whatever the reason, I had information I knew wasn't going to be flattering. I had information that, but I would never hurt, ever hurt or stand in the way of one of ours to be successful. Yeah. I'm a fierce defender of our folks, and I'm a fierce promoter of our folks.
We need it.
and so, for me, that is, I think if you were to ask anybody that knows me, they can tell you that's the truth.
Okay.
That there's enough out there to harm us,
against us,
to impede our progress, to validate whatever stereotype or concern or whatever that thing is that they want to be able to disqualify.
Yeah.
I'm never and would never go out of my way to ever harm a brother or sister, ever. And I just, we sit in such lofty positions of power. That's such a misabuse and abuse of your station to do something like that. So I'm fiercely defensive of our folks, and fiercely promoting of our folks at all times. And that's not just within the legal community. That's in business community. That's everything else, right? Because there's such a big piece of the pie. And those of us who can help, divvy up some of that.
Yeah.
Last thing I'm going to do is cut down your ability to get a piece of the pie.
I love it. Okay. Final question.
Yeah.
So the podcast is called Branding Room Only, which is a play on the term standing room only.
I like that.
Because I'm clever. And so my last question for you is, what is your magic? What is the thing that would have a room, standing room only, no seats left for people to experience about you?
I think my magic is that I'm just very real. I think people say, I get that from like all walks. Even inside my company, people say, General Counsel, you're like the most real person in this company. I'm like, well, at the bottom line, it's just who I am. Yeah. So I think the magic for me is that when you talk to me, you're getting the same guy. Right?
Yeah.
And I'm willing to tell it straight. I'm willing to tell it true. I'm willing to be vulnerable about my own shortcomings, my own misgivings, because you can learn a lot through the mistakes that I made through my career that I wouldn't wish on anybody, because the consequences have been unfortunate, and they've been long lasting, still trying to recover from some of them. So I think when you talk to me in a room, and I've done this in large audiences, people have said to me, wow, that was very real. Because we don't have time for foolishness. Just don't have time. Why do I tell you why I'm so great? Let me tell you why I'm not so great. Let me tell you things that, man, I wish I had done differently. I don't waste a lot of time with accolades and awards, and that's why you don't see me plaster all over stuff. I refuse all that stuff. I could have a closet full of awards. I refuse all that nonsense because it means nothing. It means nothing because with the stuff. Let me tell you the stuff I didn't do well. Let me tell you the stuff that I really wish I'd done differently.
Well, I'm going to take that baton. What do you wish you had done differently?
I wish that I had been a bit more thoughtful about the impact that I was having on my family. I was thinking about provider, and provider in a very narrow sense. I didn't have the wisdom or the foresight to understand absence is absence in the most material meaning of the word. And so your children don't care who you are. They want to know who you are and where are you and what do you mean to me. And when you're absent, that leads them to all kinds of conclusions about how you think about them, their level of relevant importance in their lives. And so I was so focused on career to provide. I had a very narrow sense of what provide meant, such that I left massive holes in relationships because I was providing, but I wasn't here. And I think if I could have told my younger self something like, hey, man, there's a price to this.
Yeah.
Now, do you have to pay all of that? Some of it or none of it?
Yeah.
Those are open questions for me even to this day, right? I'm still struggling with, could I or should I have done something differently?
Yeah.
And stop using the end result as a justification for the,
it's an interesting question, and it's something that I think obviously you're not the only person who has to navigate, right? But one of the things that, this has come up several times in conversations that I've had on the podcast and outside of this, one of the things that folks who have had this reflection have said is that they don't wish they had done differently. They wish they had spoken about why they were doing what they were doing, right? That they wish they had said, like, this is why I'm not here versus just not being there. Because to your point, kids don't necessarily understand, spouses don't understand unless you're communicating. And so, again, when we know better, we do better, right? We have, and thankfully when we're sitting and we have opportunities to then talk about, I think it's powerful for you to be able to say, right, I reflect back on that because people often see, stoic leaders who don't make mistakes. You making that reflection is going to change somebody, hopefully somebody's thought about how they're navigating what they're navigating right now, and at least allow them to make a choice, right, versus to do it.
Understand that, these are dynamic words. Provider
yes,
is a dynamic word. Provider of what? Are you providing them with spiritual health, mental health, physical health, providing resources? That's about the narrowest of the definitions, right? And so it really is, if I were to say my single regret, I was not nearly as thoughtful about that question and that responsibility as provider, and had a very narrow view of what that meant.
Yeah.
And that is a single regret that I do have, because it has led to, and it continues to be, a challenge in my relationships because of just being, that was not the answer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yes. Yeah. And again, coming back to when we know better, we do better. I love having reflections and being able to be accountable and then saying, and now that I know I can shift that, should I choose to, because I do think dynamic words are also mother and father.
Yeah.
Right. A perception of how we parent is a dynamic, dynamic thing. Because, for some people it is provider and that is what is needed.
Right.
right? And that's what they were taught, and that's what they were shown, and that's what the expectation is versus other ways that can be perceived and navigated. When I thought I want to interview you for the podcast, I knew it was that what you said about being in the room, and that saying, I experienced that about you. I was like, wow, there's not a lot of people where I'm like, there's not, because to the point that you made earlier, not everybody resonates the same every place that they are. And that's a way in which, that I have experienced you in the times that I've seen it. And so I'm glad that the audience is getting a chance to experience a little bit of that as well too, because you're probably one of the most authentic people that I've ever met. Without even knowing you deep enough to know all of the things, I know that each time that I've seen you, I've been like, whoa, like you have impacted me and everybody else who was around it in a way. So I want to thank you for being on the podcast and taking the time to have this conversation. I know that you are going to change lives. You have already changed mine, and I appreciate the time, effort, and energy. And that's all. Well, thanks.
Oh, and I so love your energy. So thank you for doing this as well. And, like I said, if there's anything I can do to help anybody that can help, just let me know. I'm available.
Everybody, see you next time. Tell somebody to listen to this because they need to. Bye, y'all. That's it for this episode. Appreciate you hanging out with me on Branding Room Only. Now, please do me a quick favor. Head over to ratethispodcast.com/branding so more people can join this conversation. And make sure to stop by paulaedgar.com/events to see what's next. Whether I'm live, online, or in person, I'd love to see you there. See you next time in the Branding Room. And until then, stand tall, shine bright, and always stand by your brand.